Motivation is not constant, it's not discipline. So it keeps going like that.
Okay, so today we have a new guest, Murali,
The control for this experiment.
and our first guest on this podcast.
Hey, does someone please want to explain what the experiment is?
Yeah. So it's basically we're trying out different study methods and attempting the same paper and saying why it did not work out for us and what we would probably do different about it.
So the study methods we used were three of the most popular ones. There's the pretty much studies when they want. So we use Feynman technique, which is you try to teach someone younger than you in a simple language so that you know you understand it. And then there's Pomodoro, which is doing work in between breaks. So Murali, starting with you, how did you study for physics?
Okay, so I've always done this before, and so the way I study is to just not study and to like completely rely on what happens in class and the tests. But this time I did study a bit because I got this new iPad and I wanted to use the iPad, and so I started like. But yeah, it was just I think the weekend before the exam started, we had. I think I bunked on Friday. No, I bunked on some day and I was doing physics on that day. But yeah, that's about as much as I've studied. That and the day before physics exam. That's about it.
Did you find any difficulties doing that or any positives?
Honestly, because it was something that was like completely under my control. There was no one forcing me to study, and so I could study whenever I wanted. And so because I could do that, it was a lot easier for me to study, and I sort of felt motivated to study this.
So did you like completely rely on the motivation, or did you like study when you had the energy to study? Like when you thought you could focus best?
No, it was like completely motivation. Like the spike of motivation would come when I have the energy to do the work, and so it would make sense for me to just like go through with the motivation to study whenever I get the time.
And like how confident were you after the study sessions?
On the day of the exam?
Yeah.
Not very, because again, I studied whenever I wanted to. It's not exactly the best way to study. But yeah, I was not that confident. At the same time, this is more than I've ever studied for a physics exam, so a part of me felt confident about it.
So I did the Feynman technique for like I listed all the parts that I did not know that well, and then I read that, tried to explain it to myself, and then read, and whatever I missed, I wrote that down, and then like tried to connect it as much as possible, like found an analogy, and I'm pretty sure that is what the Feynman technique fully is. It helped me. The problem was it took some time because and that too, it's not the best method to follow like a day before the exam or 2 days before the exam. So, but then if you are revising, I don't think you should be doing that. But if there's a concept that I genuinely did not understand, for that it helped very nicely. And I did do better than I did the last exam. So much so that my teacher texted me after she corrected the paper. She's like, "Hey, you did okay."
Did you feel that there was any positives as compared to your regular study routine?
See, my regular study routine is just like there'll be some worksheets or something to finish in physics, or I'll just like get scared and then I'll do something. So if I'd used this method more continuously before, it would have worked a little better. But otherwise also it's pretty useful.
Yeah, so like she said, we all crammed for the exam. And as far as cramming goes, I feel like Pomodoro is the best because it lets you divide your energies first. What I did was, I might have researched a lot into it. So you're supposed to figure out what your attention span is. Some people, they can only focus for like 5 minutes, but they need a 10-minute break to recharge. So the optimal Pomodoro for them is 5 minutes of study and then 10 minutes of break. For me, it was like 35 to 40 minute sessions of focus with 5 to 10 minutes of break. I use that and it somewhat helped. See, normally before the exam, there's a level of stress in me which makes me focus for hours on end. I will lock in. I will get the YouTube video set up, I will get my book set up, and I will actually do it for like hours. Pomodoro, it's hard to get used to because you're used to having your own free will and your own will to study. But Pomodoro sort of breaks that down into smaller segments. And those smaller segments, you are obligated to study. And those breaks, you're obligated to take breaks. You cannot control when that happens because if you do, the entire system gets.
Would you use Pomodoro if it was only for procrastination? Like if you were procrastinating, is that the only time you would use Pomodoro?
Honestly, if I was procrastinating, there's this thing called the 3-2-1 rule, where you tell yourself that you're going to do this for 2 minutes, the task for 2 minutes, and you're going to say 3, 2, 1, and then as soon as you say 1, you start the task, and you do for 2 minutes, because the initial starting of the task is the hardest part. You are more motivated to do the entire task because you already started it. So that helps a lot when you're procrastinating. As far as Pomodoro goes, I don't think it helps a lot with procrastination.
Yeah, like you said, right? People with smaller attention spans. You can't study for 5 minutes and take a 10-minute break. That's not a very good way to study. I feel like at that point, just don't study. And so for people with a lower attention span, they need to find their own ways to study. Pomodoro, I feel like for the lower attention span people, is really bad. And in this day and age, with all the reducing attention spans, Pomodoro is sort of becoming very redundant and useless at this point.
So for lower attention span, I feel like Feynman or even studying when you want would be better.
Feynman, studying whenever you want, I feel like is the best for people with some underlying motivation under them. But when it comes to subjects that you're not interested in, I feel like Pomodoro would be a better choice.
Yeah.
Because you don't really get motivation when you don't like the subject at all.
Even theory versus calculation subjects. Theory, I feel like Feynman is better, and calculation, I feel like Pomodoro is a lot better.
Yeah, but how would you explain calculation in a Feynman technique? You can't really explain.
You have to explain the method, and then it's hard to.
It doesn't work out. Yeah, it doesn't work out.
It's more muscle memory.
The 3 to 1 that thing you said, that didn't work for me. Because even after 2 minutes of sitting, my brain convinced me that I can go do something else. So it became more of okay, if I finish this, if I accomplish this one small thing, then I can take a break. So then you have to at least sit there for 20 minutes.
So what a lot of people suggest is that you take your phone and start recording you studying, or you use it as an account, study together, or time lapse study, because then it gives you a sense of accountability. And that sense of accountability, you'll be watching the time lapse back, and you'll be, if it goes well, you'll be inclined to post it as well. So you'll have a wider audience, making you more accountable. Or you can give your phone to your parents, which it's hard for a lot of people.
I had a friend who did that. She used to give her phone to her mother, and then she would, until she went to sleep, just to keep alarm, she used to take it back.
And OnePlus phones have this Zen mode thing where you just put that in, and you can't do anything with the phone for how much ever time.
And a lot of phones have that focus mode.
So you can do that stuff. And the same 30 minutes of studying for one person is not the same 30 minutes for another, because the focus is different. And whenever you do Pomodoro, right? Because you need to study for say 25 minutes, 35 minutes, 20 minutes through, you're done with 20 minutes, the rest of the 15 minutes you'll be waiting for that timer to end. And so that 15 minutes is not productive at all.
Yeah, that's attention spans.
Yeah, in your 40 minutes, you're studying for 20 minutes and then you're hoping that the next 20 minutes goes away fast.
Yeah.
And so is that really a good way to study?
It's more you get through the point that you keep getting distracted from that 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You just try to sit through that part. And once you're in there, you however long it takes to finish that, after that you can wait.
Yeah, and Pomodoro, the biggest downside is that every single study session, you have to get back into flow state. And in the previous episode as well, we explained what flow state is.
And the thing with studying whenever you want to, or studying whenever the motivation hits, is you get into this flow state and then you just cruise through that flow state until you get tired of it. And so that's a great way to sort of cram in. I mean, it's not exactly cramming if you're enjoying it. It's a great way to sort of learn stuff.
Yeah, but the problem with studying when you want, using willpower, is that if you take a longer scale, longer time frame, so say weeks or months, the motivation is not constant, it's not discipline. So it keeps going like that. There's no constant amount of studying you're doing, there's no routine you have. So you don't feel obligated to study when you need to study. You feel obligated to study when you want to study.
And burnout is a big problem, I feel because you study so much, you study so much in a burst that you won't feel like studying for the next day or 2 days. That's one of the downsides of it.
Speaking of study methods, we will be ranking the top 50 study methods soon.
For another thing about for physics especially, very little is this concept based. Even if you understand the concept, you need to know how to answer the question. So if you do something like Feynman or something, you'll understand the concept, but physics requires more practice than just reading and understanding. So
more application, especially now.
You need to sit and solve stuff, you need to practice. In that, maybe it's not the best subject for doing that particular method.
But when it comes to the theory part, I feel MCQs have a lot to play in the theory part.
At the same time, I feel IB physics is more concept based and that stuff. And at this point, right, when you're in IBTP and you're taking physics, it's clear that you have an interest in physics. And so the motivation based studying is also a great way to study, because say for 9th and 10th grade, everyone takes physics, right? And like not everyone is interested in physics, and so it's a lot harder for them to sort of pay attention and like have the motivation to study.
How do you feel that? Have you felt that you improved from last time?
Last time as in like
Physics.
oh yeah,
first
definitely.
quarter.
I mean, I studied this time, so
Yeah, like an outside of studying when you want.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't study. Sometimes it goes the negative, sometimes it goes the positives.
The thing is, last time when I wrote, I was very confident, like I will score, which that backfired. But like this time, I was actually, because I knew how much I did not know. I guess it was like I was a little more cautious of what I was writing. Like it did improve a lot from that.
For me, I feel like I improved, yeah, but I was more confident last time because the concepts that we had last time were things I already did before. And stuff like thermal concepts and thermodynamics and rigid body, I had no clue what those were. I had to sit down and watch videos for every single concept.
no, I was really confident for the last exam, but then after I saw the question paper, like so a few of the questions I just didn't understand itself, and so there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, even projectile motion. I just
I still don't get it. If air resistance
No,
is
no.
0, how is it slowing down?
It's like air
I
blowing.
just took random formulas, applied those formulas, got the right answer.
No, because like I really wanted to do that, but then I forgot the formulas.
Subat.
Yeah.
No, it's
I just used Subat.
like I don't know, just
What is that?
The
SUVAT.
Oh. That has a name.
Subat, yeah.
System motion equation.
No, like S stands for distance, displacement.
U initial
U is-
velocity,
yeah.
acceleration and time.
Oh yeah, and
Okay.
chapter something. What was it like the gas laws and not gas laws,
Oh, yeah.
the greenhouse gases.
Huh.
That
Oh,
was so
unit.
bad.
Oh,
Okay.
what was that?
No, because I was like practicing everything on paper. It was mostly numerical stuff, and so theory was like completely out of my mind. Didn't do anything. So I feel like I lost marks over that.
Yeah, I was searching for greenhouse effect IBDP on YouTube. Nothing comes up. Like you have to go into astrophysics to learn about luminosity and intensity.
Oh yeah, that's another problem.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, where did that come from?
like there's not much IB resources or like as much as CBSE and ICSE because most people just take CBSE and ICSE.
Yeah.
IB there's not many like there's not that much of a student base I guess, and so
Okay, so I guess that's it.
yeah, that's it.
In conclusion, the methods will work for people depending on your study style, your attention span, and what subject you take. So, like calculation based, Pomodoro is better, but theory based, Feynman is better.
Yes, and like not just method, it also depends on how long you're doing it for. So,
Yeah.
so there are a lot of different factors that go into it. We'll create a tier list, and we're going to go through it next episode and like rank it accordingly.
Yes. Subscribe so we don't have to go to college.
Who is Dumb Dakshda? Who is Dumb Daksh?
The most loyal viewer of our channel.
Dumb Daksh.
There's
Okay.
another Daksh guys, legend.
Such a nice guy.
What do guys do, bro?
Yeah, I want to meet this individual. I think I will have fun times with him.
Okay, guys.